There are men history remembers for their victories, and others it cannot forget because of their darkness. In the heart of the 15th century, when kingdoms rose and fell like dust in the wind, a single name emerged, a name so feared, so drenched in blood, that even empires trembled when it was spoken. Vlad the Impaler, Dracula, the son of the dragon. Centuries later, his name would transform into a myth, a vampire, immortal and cursed. But behind that legend stood something far more terrifying than fiction. A bloodline, a real one. A legacy that may still breathe today. He was not a monster born from nightmares. He was a man, and that, perhaps, is what makes him the most chilling of all. Vlad was born in 1431, in a stone fortress in Transylvania. The walls of that fortress still stand quiet, ancient, and cold. But in the year of his birth, those stones echoed with the cries of war. The Ottoman Empire was spreading across Europe like wildfire, and the kingdoms that stood against it, Wallachia, Moldavia, Hungary, were trapped between faith and extinction. His father, Vlad Dracula, swore an oath to the secret order of the dragon, a brotherhood devoted to defending Christianity from the infidel. They wore the sigil of a dragon coiled around a cross. But legends say their oaths were made not only to God, but to something older, something hidden in ritual, smoke, and blood. They believed that power was a divine flame, and to wield it, one must feed it. When Vlad was just 11, he was taken as a hostage by the Ottoman Sultan, a political guarantee that his father would obey the empire. But captivity did more than break the boy. It shaped him. He learned their language, their customs, and their cruelty. He saw how fear was a weapon sharper than any blade. He understood that men obey not those who inspire love, but those who command terror. When he returned home, he brought that lesson with him. And when he took back his father's throne, he unleashed it upon the world. They called him Gapek, the Impaler. Two enemies, it meant madness. To his people, it meant justice. He built forests of death, thousands of bodies impaled on wooden stakes, the air thick with rot, the ravens fat from feasting. The Ottoman scouts who crossed into his lands would turn back, their courage melting at the sight of 20,000 corpses standing like silent soldiers guarding their princess border. But there was method in his horror. Wallachia, small and divided, survived against armies 10 times its size. Vlad's rule was iron, merciless, and effective. His people feared him, yes, but they also obeyed. And fear, in his world, was the only law that worked. Yet behind the cruelty lay something deeper, an obsession with blood, not in the way of monsters or myths, but in lineage, in purity. Vlad believed that his blood carried the fire of divine right, that he ruled not by chance, but by inheritance, and that anyone who tainted that inheritance deserved only one end, a stake in the ground. When Blood the Impaler betrayed, ambushed, and butchered by his own nobles, his enemies rejoiced. His body was buried in haste at Snagov Monastery, a shallow grave for a man who defied empires. But when his tomb was opened centuries later, it was empty. No bones, no body, nothing but dust and animal remains. Some say grave robbers stole his corpse. Others say the monks moved it to protect it from desecration. But the peasants of Wallachia whispered another tale. They said the dragon's body could not rest because his blood refused to die. For centuries, that bloodline was thought lost. But history, like blood, has a way of flowing where we least expect blood-odd songs. Historians now agree on at least 3. One of them, Minia Cruel, brilliant, and paranoid, carried on his father's legacy. He, too, ruled through fear, and like his father, he met a violent death. But before he died, he fathered a child, and through that child, the line survived. Over time, their descendants scattered across the Carpathians, intermarrying with the noble Bessarab family. From there, their names changed, their blood did not. Through centuries of royal marriages, the Draculefti blood eventually threaded its way into the veins of other European houses. In 2011, during a visit to Transylvania, Prince Charles of the United Kingdom publicly admitted, "I'm related to Vlad the Impaler." He said it with a smile, but behind that smile was truth. Genealogists traced his family tree back through the Hungarian line of the Bathory family, and then to Vlad's own kin. So yes, the heir to the British throne carries the blood of the Impaler. The dragon's blood now beats beneath the crown. But what if that blood carried more than memory? What if it carried destiny? Through the centuries, Vlad's supposed descendants have lived strange lives. Misfortune clings to them like shadow. The Dragoi family of the 1700s, rumored heirs to Minia S-line, were accused of witchcraft and murder. Their mansion burned, their name erased. A 19th century Austrian countess, descended through the bus, died after drinking from a chalice of mercury, believing it would preserve her youth. And in Transylvanian villages today, there are families whose genetic markers match one another so precisely that scientists cannot explain it by coincidence. An unbroken strand of DNA from the 15th century to now. But science cannot measure fear. And superstition never truly dies. In the forest of Pernary, where Vlad once ruled, locals still leave offerings at the ruins of his fortress. Candles, coins, locks of hair. Some leave drops of blood. They whisper prayers for protection, not from the devil, but from the curse of the dragon itself. Elders claim that on cold nights, a shadow walks the battlements, a man in armor, his eyes burning like iron in the moonlight. They say his soul cannot rest because his descendants still bear his burden to rule, to fight, to suffer. The Order of the Dragon was founded to protect Christendom, but its rituals were steeped in old symbols, serpents, Ouroboros's, sacred bloodlines. Some say it was less about faith and more about control, a way to keep power in the hands of a chosen few, bound not by loyalty, but by lineage. When the Ottomans conquered Wallachia, the order faded, but its philosophy survived. That true power comes from blood. Not money, not armies. Blood. And if that belief still echoes through royal halls today, perhaps Vlad's legacy is not a curse, but a design. Centuries after his death, a new kind of empire rose, one built not on swords, but on stories. And among them, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Stoker never set foot in Transylvania, but he studied maps, histories, and legends of a prince who impaled his enemies. He borrowed the name Dracula and turned the man into a monster. But monsters are immortal, and through that fiction, Vlad's blood lived on in imagination, as powerful as it ever was in flesh. Perhaps Stoker's genius was not invention but intuition, because every legend begins with a truth, and some truths are too dark to stay buried. In 2014, a team of geneticists studying medieval Romanian remains found a recurring anomaly, a mitochondrial sequence linked to high disease resistance and elevated pain thresholds. When compared to modern samples from Transylvanian villages, the same pattern appeared, a rare, stubborn, genetic echo. Coincidence, maybe. But in history, coincidence often wears the mask of destiny. 5 centuries after his death, Vlad the Impaler still rules the imagination of the world. His castle draws millions of pilgrims. His name sells stories, movies, blood-red wine. But for those who carry even a drop of his lineage, the story is not entertainment. It is inheritance. To them, he is not a villain. He is an ancestor. A man who believed that order could only rise from terror. A ruler who carved his name not in ink, but in blood. And perhaps that's why his legend endures. Because we fear him, and secretly, we understand him. Every generation births its monsters, and in every monster, we see a reflection of ourselves. Our hunger for power, our thirst for legacy, our desperate need to be remembered. Vlad the Impaler was not the first to believe blood carried destiny. He will not be the last. The line he began has never been proven extinct, and maybe that's the point. Maybe the dragon's blood was never meant to die. Maybe it was meant to wait. The tomb was empty. The stories are endless, and the blood still flows. The question is not whether Vlad lives on, it's how much of him lives in us.